In this year's election, people in Boston will vote for new city councilors in 3 districts. One of them is District 2, currently represented by Bill Linehan. The district includes South Boston, the South End, Chinatown, and the Leather District. Our guest is one of the candidates in the preliminary election, September 26th. We'd like to welcome Ed Flynn. Thanks very much for being with us, Ed.
It's good to be with you, Chris.
Some viewers might remember that you ran 10 years ago. You carried South Boston, and what have you done since then?
Well, I've been a probation officer at Suffolk Superior Court. For the last 5 years, I've been supervising the homeless community in Boston, also supervising returning veterans, unfortunately, that are in the criminal justice system, giving people an opportunity to re-enter society following prison or jail, but giving them the opportunity to get job training, skills such as health, life skills, GED, but also healthcare, mental health counseling. Housing is a critical issue for those on probation. So, probation officer, it's an important job. It's a part of the criminal justice system. It's enforcing the laws of the court, but also trying to give people another chance to re-enter, re-engage society. So I think it's a job I really love.
I can see you still doing some of that work if you were to be the city councilor, because people would call up with, calls for constituent services. But beyond that, what about city's policy around the homeless and recovery?
I think Mayor Walsh is doing an excellent job in reaching people that are dealing with substance abuse related issues. He's provided sound leadership on that issue. As a probation officer, I also had the opportunity to visit almost every week Long Island homeless shelter. And the bridge at the time, this was 6 years ago, was very unsafe, even passing over it. But I enjoyed the job. I think it's critical that we reach people to make sure that those that are suffering from substance abuse have the opportunity to get engaged into treatment. BU Medical Center is playing a key role. Public health is playing a key role. But also it's a state problem, it's a city problem, it's a national problem. We all must be engaged to make sure that those that are fighting the addiction currently facing our city get the treatment that they need and deserve. But having said that, there's a lot of great people out there doing God's work. I know the courthouses are very active, engaged. I know we had a tremendous probation officer years ago in South Boston, Jack Leary. But there's other people that are filling that role throughout the city, Mr. Osterguy and so many others. Mayor Walsh is providing great leadership, but I'd like to continue playing, being part of that team, making sure that those that are suffering some substance abuse have an opportunity to get back into counseling, re-engage, and get healthy again.
One thing you must feel very strongly is this need for places to go to get adequate recovery services, maybe residential programs. Do you think there has to be a stronger push for that? Because there is going to be some resistance in the neighborhoods.
Right. I know there is a plan or discussion anyways to have the Shattuck Hospital play a role in terms of housing some of the homeless, making sure that they get into treatment. I also have a plan to reopen Long Island Hospital, and I have talked to people in the recovery community, public safety officials, medical professionals, and I'm learning from them about what it would take to reopen the center.
How would you get people there?
Well, I think a bridge would cost over $100 million, maybe $120 million. I think long term that would be, I would like to see a bridge built, but over the short term, ferry service near the island to make sure that those that are suffering from substance abuse, as we talked about, have the opportunity to get that treatment on a facility, invest in the island, in the infrastructure, in making sure that we have a trained medical professional. Public health would play a key role there. I think there's opportunities for us to do that through linkage, through pilot program. Also, there's a car rental tax that goes to the BCEC expansion that could also be used as part of the plan, as well as CPA money. I think it's not only a citywide problem. I think it's a statewide problem. A lot of the homeless They need our help. They deserve to be helped. But as a state and as a city, we need to make sure that the resources are there. And I am confident that the city is doing an excellent job on that. And I'm proud to be part of that team as well.
This has been News, and we're talking with the candidate for City Council in District 2, Ed Flynn. Ed, in this district, in the real estate market, there's a lot of boom going on, but there's some people at the wrong end of it. They're getting forced out as well. I'm thinking of a place in the border of South End and Chinatown. Should the city give tenants stronger protections like just cause eviction?
I think the city's doing a good job making sure that the tenants are protected. But the city's also doing, as you mentioned, Chinatown, the city is also trying to work with nonprofit agencies to make sure that if there is a city-owned land and it's going to be built, that a high percentage of that would be used for affordable housing. We need more public housing. We need more affordable housing, workforce housing. There's a stretch of land in South Boston also from Broadway Station to Andrews Square area. I'd like to see some workforce housing built there, and I think the city has a good plan. They're doing well. They're making progress, and over the last 25 years, we haven't built enough affordable housing across the city. We do have a high income inequality of any city in America, but for years we haven't done a good job building affordable housing. I think we're doing that the last several years.
Would you be able to commit yourself one way or the other on the Jim Brooks Stabilization Act for tenants?
Yes, I support that.
Right. Of course, the other problem going on with housing is that there's so much of a boom that the people are worried about the traffic, especially around the former Edison plant.
Right.
What do you think should be done with that?
Well, the Edison plant, I was at several meetings recently. I think the number one issue, we have to work, the city, the state, and the federal government has to make sure environmentally it's cleaned up before anything happens. I want to see a written document that says that they have addressed the public health issue surrounding the Boston Edison. Not only that, I'd love to see a public health study in South Boston, in the South End, in Chinatown. There's a lot of environmental concerns in our district. Lupus, respiratory issues, various cancers. We have the highest rate of many neighborhoods across America, actually. So I think a public health study is critical to know exactly what happened over the last 50 years in terms of public health, as it relates to the Boston Edison and other areas as well. Also, the other aspect of the Edison would be traffic. In the morning, it's difficult for the elderly and for people going to work, waiting for the bus to cross the street. There's so many cars coming from the South Shore, going up L Street, from the L Street Bathhouse up to Summer Street, up to South Station. So we do need a plan to make sure that traffic is addressed.
Of course, you have so much development. You've got people who live in the neighborhood right now who can't even get on the bus because it's just overcrowded during peak hours. What about those people? What would you like to do for them?
I've been talking to those people. I have a plan. I have a written plan, but basically I'd like to see some express buses from the City Point section of South Boston especially, right to South Station. I'd like to see some express buses that would take them from the neighborhood into their place of work and return. That's in my neighborhood, but I'd also like to see, the booming Boston economy, the South Boston waterfront. I'd like to see a better transportation system going from the South End or Chinatown, Roxbury, right into the South Boston waterfront, so that booming economy can be enjoyed by the people of the district from the South End and Chinatown as well. I think it takes all of us to work on it, city, state, and federal officials. I served 25 years in the Navy. I know I have great leadership skills. I'm able to work closely with people. I'm a good listener. I can bring people together, and that's one of the issues I want to work on as well.
One other transportation idea that has been talked about in recent years is whether to have a heliport, probably in this district. What do you think?
Well, there was plans to put a heliport in the Fort Point section of South Boston. I was opposed to it. I was at several meetings. I spoke out against it. I thought it was a bad idea. I still think it's a bad idea. It's a neighborhood. It's where people live, and maybe there's a need for a heliport, but it's not in that area of the city. People deserve to to live in that neighborhood without the constant sounds of a helicopter going over their home. And also I'd want to make sure that it's in compliance with guidelines from Logan Airport, from FAA as well, and in the military. I think it's critical to make sure we do a thorough study before we even engage in a plan like that.
Finally, about the public schools in Boston, I know the city's spending more money out of its own budget. A lot of people complaining about programs being cut. Anything that you'd like to see done about the schools?
Well, my son is in the Boston public school system. He's at the Josiah Quincy School in Chinatown. My wife and I are very active in the school. It's a great public school. He's going to the Josiah Quincy Upper School in September. As I said, it's a great school, but I want to make sure every student enjoys a great public education like my son does. I want to make sure that there's after-school programs, before-school programs. I'd love to see a role for colleges, universities, and hospitals as well to play a role in the public school system. My son, there's a dental hygienist that comes into Josiah Quincy School several times a year and gives a checkup to the students. I think more of that type of health care also can be provided. I think the teachers are doing an excellent job. The students are working hard. I have faith in the system. I'm going to be a strong supporter of the public school system, not just because my son is a student in the system, but I think every child deserves access to a good quality public education.
Thank you very much for being with us.
It's good to be with you, Chris.
Ed Flynn, candidate for City Council in District 2.